There's our clock. Good. And there's that. Okay, and all right, I think that those things are all working. That's technically working. That's cool. That's cool. And oops, just gotta readjust my chair. Ta-da! All right, there we go. Good morning. It is sunny outside, but it is like it's 43 degrees. That's not terrible. It was warmer earlier in the week. We had stuff like in the 60s, and then all of a sudden it just sort of stopped being cool. But I'm trying to fix my watch. Sorry. We didn't get all the snow that the southern part of Wisconsin did and northern part of Illinois, so I appreciate that. Let's see what we got here. Hello from Northern Ireland, from Greece, Massachusetts, Belfast, the UK. Danielle says it's from the UK. Someone else from Belfast. What else? Noisy London. There's a marathon happening outside my office. Well, that's pretty interesting. Good morning from Japan. Let me see. What else have we got? Edmonton, Canada. Let me see. Louisville, Kentucky. Australia. Poland, England, Calgary, Warwickshire in Britain. We've got rainy Pittsburgh, Seattle of the East, Austin, Texas. I was just there a 3 weeks ago or whatever. Netherlands, Pittsburgh, Scotland, New York, Netherlands again, more Netherlands. Let me see here. Germany, Spain, Sydney, St. Helens, Bulgaria, Portugal, Texas, Oregon, Scotland, all over the place. Clearwater, Florida, Southern Nevada, Indianapolis. I'll be in Indianapolis in the beginning of August for Gen Con, because that's where it is. Brooklyn, New York, New Jersey, Quebec. Got two Quebecs right next to each other. Kyle and Caribou, you guys should play some games, you know what I mean? I mean, Quebec is big. I mean, you probably don't live right next to each other, but maybe you do. You posted right next to each other. South Carolina, Lansing, not Michigan, but Kansas. Listening in from Guatemala today. I don't know if I've had a Guatemala listener, viewer before. Phoenix, Arizona is hot. Yeah, that seems to be the case from what I understand. New South Wales, Belgium, Colombia, South Carolina, not that country. Morning from Madison, Wisconsin. That's kind of nearby. Argentina, nice. And Napa Valley, Dayton, Ohio, Michigan. I have a bit of an allergy thing going on right now, so there's potential for sneezes. I will try to mute the mic so that I don't blow out your headphones and such. But yeah, I'm just fixing the light a little bit here. Man, I need a haircut. I'm going to have to get a haircut next week. So what's been going on since the last show? Well, I've been busy with work. I've been trying to do more hobby because I feel like I've not been doing enough to make myself happy on that situation. I sadly didn't get to do any yesterday, but I did work in the basement yesterday. I am trying to kind of rearrange and clean and whatnot everything, and I'm moving my hobby area. So I'm basically doing the reverse of painting yourself into a corner. Normally what happens is if you paint yourself into a corner, at least the idea, the image in your head is that you kind of work and work and work until you get to this far corner and then you're stuck. And so I'm doing the reverse of that, where I'm starting in this far corner and I'm just cleaning that area and I'm moving my hobby table in there, and my computer table is going to go in there, and all that stuff. So eventually, this will all be downstairs, hopefully. But it'll be a little while still. But yeah, so at the very least, I'm going to be moving my hobby table and all that kind of stuff, which is going to help me to reorganize and clean and stuff, which I think is important. But it is a big project, and the downside is the more I do it, the less time I spend hobbying, and that kind of stuff. So it's a band-aid that needs to get ripped off, like it needs to happen, but it is, yeah, it takes up a ton of time, so that's a bummer. Adron says it is prime allergy season. Yeah, my nose was kind of runny a good portion of yesterday, and I've been a little sneezy here and there, so yeah. What else have we got here? 12 Neef says, I've been in a hobby funk since Adepticon. I've been doing stuff. I just haven't been doing as much as I wish I could, I think. And it's not so much that I'm concerned about my output. It's more that it's time that I get to spend kind of de-stressing, and I feel like I want more of that. But I've been very busy doing all kinds of other stuff, and that's been a bit problematic. So hopefully, I think today I'm going to do a little bit more basement kind of cleaning shenanigans and stuff, and spend an hour or two on that. But then I want to spend some time. I need to spend some time on the big Orc Ambot project thing, and get him ready for priming. I got to add some more stuff and texture the base, and then I need to. I have to go to the studio today and take some stuff there and pick some stuff up. I'm building a new desk kind of out of a bunch of IKEA stuff and I don't want it's like those kind of cabinets that you usually have on the floor, and then you get like a tabletop and you put it across the top, and there you go, you're good. And that's going to be my new computer desk. But I don't want, because our basement sometimes does get a little damp, I don't want those things sitting on the floor. Plus the floor in our basement is just not flat anywhere for the most part. It's an old house. So I bought these things on Amazon. They're about yay tall, and they are legs that you can screw onto the bottom of those types of, press board, whatever they are, kind of shelves and stuff like that. So you can just screw them on, and then they have adjustable casters, so I can hopefully level things out. But I need the little hand drill, which I've got still at the studio. I could use the big hand drill, but the little one's easier. Anyway, so I got to go there, and I got to take some stuff there. I'm taking my OG Realm of Battle board, the original one with the skulls underneath the surface and all that kind of stuff. It's all painted up, and it's been sitting here at the house for a long time, and I'm going to take it to the studio, A, to get it out of the garage or basement, and B, to also eventually use in some sort of battle reports, probably. I've painted it all deserty. I should really go in there and do some sort of water resin effects to kind of cover up those skulls, but I keep talking about doing it, but I haven't done it. Torch says, my students and I are all runny and sneezy here in the California Valley. Yeah, it's that time of year, I guess. So, DJ Todd P. Harris says, wife and kids are gone for the weekend in uninterrupted hobby time. Nice. Randall says, I've been busy getting ready for TMX. Really looking forward to it, as am I. And it's coming up sort of soon. We're about 5 weeks out, roughly. Is that about it, right? Sounds about right. So yeah, if you're interested in, and you live anywhere near, or maybe you don't, there are people coming from very far away. Our very own VJ Morph is coming from Australia. So if you want to meet VJ Morph, you should definitely come to TMX. Coming up on the 8th and 9th of June, 2019, here in lovely Oshkosh, Wisconsin, at the university. So yeah, if you're into that, then you should definitely check it out. And if you are thinking about running some events, please go to the website and fill out the form, and then I will put them on the thing, on the listing, usually within several days or whatever. But yes. Let's see here. Lucas says, I can't hobby because I am stuck building a kitchen. Yeah, no, those life things get in the way. Space Iguana says, I'm hitting a wall on just feeling like I'm not making progress on my Death Guard kill team. The models just take forever, it feels like. There is a lot of detail on the Death Guard because there's a lot of boils and tentacles and icky bits and whatnot and everything like that. But I find that if you don't, like when I did my Death Guard, which I don't know that I have a picture of particularly here, I am like not particularly in focus. I've had to like lean way back. I might have to fix that. Yeah, it can be problematic, but if you spend the right amount of time, like you're happy with how much time you spend, it can work out relatively well. All right, I'm gonna just mess with this. I know this is always a lot of fun for people to watch. That's better. Slightly better. Better one, better two. I think that was worse. If we go this way. Yeah, that's better. My glasses have got more definition now. George Patterson says moving to the basement means no more Nick Raimondo. Probably, but maybe we could have like I was thinking actually earlier today I could potentially hang a lovely portrait or something like that, or like a wanted poster. I'm not sure, but yeah. I have also kicked around the idea, and I'm not going to lie, I've kicked around the idea of just taking a picture of the background, like all blurred out like it is here, and then just using a green screen down in the basement, and then it would look like I'm still up here in the dining room, but I'm actually in the basement. I don't know that I could get the lighting perfect. With a bunch of work, I could get the lighting very close, but, the lighting on me. But I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm going to go that direction or not, so... David Peel says the real Nick Raimondo is the friends we made along the way. Very true, very true. I don't know. So asks, did you get snow yesterday too? No, we didn't. Initially, there was talk that we were going to maybe get like an inch, but the majority of it all went south. And as it turns out, yesterday we didn't get any snow. So seriously, if you drive like half an hour, maybe an hour south of us, all of a sudden you start getting into snow. And when you get down to like Milwaukee and Madison, which is an hour and a half or a little bit more, you start getting into a bunch of snow. And then as you get towards the Wisconsin-Illinois border, bottom border of Illinois, or bottom border of Wisconsin, top border of Illinois, then there was, from what I see, a lot of snow. So thankful for that's not the case. Oh, and now the camera locked up. Son of a gun. It's one of those days. All right, so, whoop, and then it kept going. All right. We're just going to go with that. Let me see. All right. Good place for head swaps, looking for modern gas mask head. Are you talking about for humans or for orcs? If you're talking about for humans, where did I just buy some? Not Cromlech, but there was another company that I bought some stuff from recently that I thought was good. Max Mini, maybe? It's another company in Poland. There's just a ton of companies in Poland that are making a whole bunch of resin stuff, and I don't know why that is. Is there a lot of resin mines there that they can get it? I don't know. It's just like every cool company that seems to come up with a bunch of resin stuff a lot of times, especially like conversion bits and things like that, seems to be Poland. So I don't know what that's all about. Yeah. Let's see here. Ariel Sanchez asks, hey guys, has anyone swapped the chips for Necron minis in Space Marines Adventures? I bought some Warriors and Immortals to play with my kids and build my first kill team to join my friends. I mean, I don't see why you couldn't, I mean, I think the reason that they just made the Necrons as chips instead of full-on models is A, to keep the price down. So they just put in just the models for the Space Marines, and then, you use the chips as the Necrons. But if you wanted to swap them, I think you certainly could. The other thing is that Necrons, in my opinion, are more fiddly to build than Space Marines are. And so since the game is kind of aimed a little bit more towards newer players and stuff like that, I think that's why they didn't decide to put those in there. You know what I mean? So, yeah. A bunch of people saying Spellcrow and Anvil Industries and Cyborg Miniatures. So those are all potentials you could go check out for your gas mask heads. Now that you mention it, I do think that Spellcrow were the ones that I picked up. I think I picked them up at the Nova Open. And, yeah. Anvil Industries for gas mask heads. Other people are asking that. Hello from the Scottish Highlands. First time joining it with a live stream. Well, welcome. Let me see here. Nicholas asks, good morning from New York. What are your thoughts on the new Slaanesh models? I've never been a big fan of the whole Slaanesh aesthetic, so I'm probably not the right person to ask. I think it's interesting that a lot of the models seem to be like they seem to have like one female breast and one like male breast kind of a thing going on, like on the same like that. They've not. I don't know if they've done that before. I noticed that in a bunch of the imagery though. And I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I've never been a big fan of all that. Like of the Chaos Gods, my favorites are generally Nurgle and Khorne, and the other two I've never really gotten into. I like the new Thousand Suns. I think those models are pretty great, but like all the normal kind of Tzeentch demon-y kind of bird people kind of stuff. Like I don't like the Zangors at all. Just the visual look, it's just not my aesthetic. And all the Slaanesh like demonettes and all that jazz and everything, that's never really been my thing either. So, so yeah, I guess kind of where I'm at there. Alan says, I'm way more excited about Warcry now that we know it's not Chaos only. Yeah, I mean, they announced that at... Where the hell was it? Adepticon, I'm pretty sure, is when they first announced that. I'm still interested to see whether or not it is going to be... Like, obviously, all the stuff that's going to come out for Chaos for Warcry, they've said is going to be all new models, because it's going to be kind of a little bit along the lines of Necromunda, where you buy a box of models, and then those are your people, you know what I mean? And as opposed to taking your current Age of Sigmar stuff and being able to bring it into Warcry, like you can do with Kill Team, where you can take your 40k stuff and bring it into Kill Team. They have said, however, these new models they're making will go the other way, where you can take those models and then use them in Age of Sigmar, just like you do with like Shadespire, Warhammer Underworlds, all that. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see whether they have to make a new box of models for every single one of those factions they show, or whether it's just the Chaos guys they'll make new stuff for, and then they'll be like, if you want to use your whatever, you know, Stormcast dudes or these dudes or those whatever, you know, you could do that. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm intrigued. I think the terrain looks cool. I don't know. I do like shooting a lot. So if it's mostly hand-to-hand combat kind of fighting, that's the thing, is that's what I'm always looking for in Age of Sigmar. Is I'm always looking for an army or a model or a unit or whatever that has a range attack. So yeah, I don't know what it is. This is one of the reasons why I have a tendency to play a lot more Kill Team these days than anything else. So yeah. Emily says, if you're interested in Slaanesh, check out Warhammer Weekly. Vince is super into Slaanesh. Like in excess. Get it? Haha. It's true. Vince Venturella, go look him up on the internet. He's a very good painter. Way, way, way better than me. And now I have a sneeze coming. Hang on. Okay. Only one that time. That's strange. Anyway, but yeah, and he's super into that kind of stuff, and he also talks quite a bit. He has a live show every Wednesday night, Eastern time, Central time. It's kind of varies a lot too, because he travels a lot. So sometimes it's because sometimes he's in England, sometimes he's wherever. So time zones change. Anyway, check out Warhammer Weekly, and especially if you're interested in like rules and stuff, because he goes deep dives into that as well. So I totally agree with Emily's sentiment there. VJ Morph says, I think it's cool that they've gone back to an androgynous look instead of the sexy times models that they had made them into. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it makes them more true to form or something. You know what I mean? Because they've got kind of the both things going on. I think that makes a lot more sense. Pete says, good afternoon from Scotland. Hope you and the fam are well, Adam. well, so far so good. Like I said, allergies a little bit, but we'll see how it goes. What else here? GW was adamant that it was just like Necro, so I'm hoping that there is more flex in the Kill Team style. Referring to Warcry, I'm assuming. Yeah, that'll be interesting. That'll be interesting to see. Ben Dunlap asks, Warcry terrain for Kill Team? I mean, you certainly can. There's no reason I suppose you couldn't. That's the thing that I get people all the time who are angry and send me messages. They're not angry at me. They just want to commiserate or whatever. But they're angry because you can't get the starter box for Kill Team anymore. So they're like, well, how am I supposed to get into Kill Team if I can't get the starter box? I can't get a terrain. And well, you don't need the terrain. I mean, you need some terrain. And I would argue the game is best when you have three-dimensional terrain. But then again, I'm not a competitive player. The reason that they made Arena with mirrored kind of terrain and the predominantly two-dimensional, like you're not going up high or anything like that, is because it just makes the competitive scene go quicker. There's a lot less looking at it going, well, I think I can see him. Well, I'm not sure. If you're just on a thing, you can literally take a laser pointer and go, boop, yep, you can hit him. So that makes sense, but that's why I don't play Arena really, because I don't like the competitive scene, and I like the more three-dimensional kind of stuff, which is fine. That being said, you can use any terrain you want. So if you did want to use the terrain from Warcry for your Kill Team, they're just fighting over ruins then, you know? I mean, heck, the majority of 40k in general is fighting over ruins most of the time. So, yeah. I'm interested in seeing how that turns out. Let's see here. Are you looking forward to the new upcoming Blackstone Fortress expansion, Trader Command, and thoughts on Blackstone Fortress in general and its models? The models are awesome. I don't see myself particularly ever playing Blackstone Fortress. I bought it for the models, because there's just a lot of models in there that I really like. Specifically, when they finally released the rules, the Kill Team rules for the Blackstone Fortress models, and then I found that you could run that whole chaos side of it, well, most of the chaos side of that Blackstone Fortress box is its own Kill Team, and they are a special faction. They're not chaos, so you can't mix them in with other chaos Kill Team stuff. They are servants of the abyss. They are their own faction, so you can only use those guys. But like the Trader Guardsmen are awesome looking sculpts, and I think they're going to start releasing those. But then there's also the awesome goat people, the Beastmen, which makes me happy. The models, I mean, they've just done a really great job with that stuff. On the more good guy side, for lack of a better term, all those kind of single models are pretty cool. A lot of them for Kill Team end up being commanders, which I'm kind of not necessarily. I don't play a lot of commanders. But there's a couple of them where I'm like, yeah, I can see using some of those. I could see using some of those actually as Inquisitors to some degree for the thing that I'm working on that I'll talk about a little bit better or later. But yeah, it's a great box. It's not for me as far as, like I said, the game itself. I don't know that I'm going to play it. I should probably sit down and try to watch like a good, decent battle report on it and then see what I think. But I don't know. Let's see here. Harry Cross says, been looking into Saga after you mentioned it before. Picked up a gripping beast Saxon warlord, but I was wondering if you liked any other producers for historical models. I don't really play a lot of historicals myself, but the only stuff that's even vaguely historical that I play is stuff predominantly from Warlord. So I have Test of Honor. I have Test of Honor, the original starter box. And that's all painted up because a good friend of mine, I had him. We basically did a trade. He's a commission painter, and he needed a logo and T-shirts and business cards and the whole deal and all that kind of stuff, and web graphics and all that jazz. So I did that for him, and then he painted up the whole starter box. And then the other thing is Conflict 47, which is not exactly historical because there's laser tanks and werewolves, but it's pretty close to historical. But there's still also guys with Tommy guns, and there's Nazis and Americans and whatever, English robots, that kind of jazz. So yeah, I don't know a ton about other types of historical stuff. I know Saga is relatively popular. I would say it's probably not as popular as Bolt Action, not by a long shot, but amongst people who are interested even in anything kind of more ancient or whatever, Saga is probably one of the best well-known of those. Because it's also a newer game, too. There's a lot of old, ancient games, and by ancient I mean like Saxons and Vikings and junk like that. But although those are maybe Middle Ages, I don't even know the terminology. Anyway, my point is that a lot of those older games, because they're older, they're super crunchy and they're really only interesting to, frankly, an older crowd, even older than me. Whereas Saga has got a much newer rule system, both chronologically but then also in style. You know what I mean? So I think that's why it attracts. There's still an older crowd. When you go into the Saga room at Adepticon, like there's people also in their 30s and probably even 20s, but there's still people in their 40s and 50s and 60s as well. So yeah, definitely. Ben asks, are the Blackstone Fortress models any good for conversions? They are predominantly monopose, or whatever, push fit. They're not push fit necessarily, but they kind of go together just the one way. So you can do some conversions, but you're a little limited. You can't they're not posable. At least it didn't seem to be. But that doesn't stop someone who's got definitely the drive to sit down and say, well, I'm going to just get rid of that arm and then put a new one in and sculpt a new shoulder or whatever. But they're not easily convertible. I guess that's probably the best answer. JP Got Rocket says that Footsore Miniatures has some great stuff for Saga. I kind of figured that the people in the chat are going to know more about this stuff than I am, and I think that they're going to be able to give you good information there. Let's see here. Bren asks, hi Adam, have you ever played Core Space from Battle Systems? That name sounds familiar, but I've never played it. Were they at the Las Vegas Open? There was a company at the Las Vegas Open that was selling a game. They were just selling the book. It was one of those use whatever kind of models you like, which I kind of like that concept a lot, honestly. But I don't remember if it was them or if it was somebody else, but there was a booth at LVO. But I've not played it, though. Atomic Dracula, which is, again, a great name. Morning, Uncle Adam. I hope I didn't miss the homebrew breakdown. That's a homebrew breakdown is a lot of fun to say, as is Atomic Dracula. I have not talked about the Inquisition stuff yet, but I will probably in a bit. So, yeah. Let me see here. What else have we got? Puchinsky says, hi, Adam. Have you ever played Confrontation? Recently discovered this old game. Can't get over how gorgeous the miniatures are and wish it was more popular. I know that they started... Didn't they do a Kickstarter a while ago to kind of start the game back up again? So Confrontation was originally a game in the early 2000s, I think, and it was a French company. And the models are amazing. I know Sam has got a cache of their models. Like he was buying them not used, but like on clearance when the company kind of started to fall apart. He was buying them from a local shop that is one of those shops that's kind of a hoarder that just likes to buy like stuff's going out of business. Okay, we'll buy up all of it, and that kind of stuff. And then he sells huge lots of things at Gen Con. But anyway, so yeah, Sam was getting a bunch of Confrontation models from him and really enjoys that line. And I know that there was some sort of Kickstarter, I thought a year or two ago, trying to get things rolling again. But I haven't, I have not played it at all. But the models do look pretty good. Let's see here. What else have we got? Paul Noxie says, I've been using Pious Vorn in Kill Team. Works very well. Plus she has 3 wounds and a type of disgusting resilience. Oh, nice. I'm looking forward to her. I've got built and her base is textured and she is primed. Yeah, so far the only models that I've gotten like real far on in Blackstone Fortress, like I've built a bunch, but I haven't gotten them beyond that. But the ones that I've gotten built and textured and primed are her and the 2 Rattling twins or whatever. and they're all going to end up in my Imperial Guard kill team at some point, because that's the only place they can go, as it turns out. I kind of like that concept of, like, that was the thing I sort of liked about the rules that they made for kill team, the kill team rules that they made for Blackstone Fortress. Is they were like, yeah, so we'll make kill team rules for this guy, but technically he can only do this one thing. Like the UR025, the robot guy, he has to be in the Adeptus Mechanicus, obviously, which makes sense, and also he only can be a heavy. So, you know, that kind of thing, or whatever. So it's interesting the way that they've done that, and I do like that. Arthur says that Guerrilla Miniature Games is really big on confrontation, but I don't think he has posted many videos of it. Yeah, I haven't seen I haven't seen any of that from him, so yeah. Josh says, hi, Uncle Adam. Used your baking soda / kitty litter basing idea today on some Kingdom Death monster bases, and they turned out amazing. Thanks for the tips. Well, I'm glad it worked out for you. Yeah, absolutely. I still, that's the majority. Like, I've been doing so much Kill Team lately. Like, I've only been working on Kill Team, and I made my Kill Team bases, like, super simple, which I think I made a video about, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months ago, about just, like, I'm just using the texture of the base as, like, the base, like, asphalt, and then I am just sprinkling a little bit of kitty litter and sticking it down with CA glue to be like, these are pieces of rubble or rock that blew off of a building and have landed here or whatever. And then maybe sometimes I might throw a skull in there or something like that, you know, just to be saucy. But yeah, and that's it. And then I just paint everything gray and I throw black wash on it, and then I do some dry brushing of lighter gray, and I call it a day, because I want all my kill teams to kind of match and to look like this vaguely like urban, but not too much time spent urban, you know, like some people will go in there and paint little tiny like road stripes, or they'll put like, you know, all kinds of stuff, which if that's what you want to do, that's great. But for me, I'm trying to like crank through kill teams as quick as possible. So that's kind of where I'm at, and it's been working out pretty well. So yeah, okay, cool. There was an issue, but it's fixed with the stream was kind of looking blurry on my little preview screen, but I think it's better now. So yeah, I would like to, though, at some point sit down and start spending some time. Like, the one downside is I've kind of worked myself into a corner where now the kill team, like all my kill teams, I'm trying to make them basically have the same type of base. And so now if I want to do some really fun, interesting basing, they would not match the rest of my kill teams. So I'm not quite sure what to do about that. Probably make some models for a different game and then get fancy with the bases is one of the things I could probably do that might be not a bad idea. I might do that with the other side. I might try to do their bases kind of, because I have a bunch of those Green Stuff World rollers, so I might do, I'm trying to remember if I have the cobblestone one or not. I'll have to look. But that would be really good. The cobblestone one would be great for other side, and then I could just do the base, because like I was mentioning with the other side, those pieces are all built. Like, all those models are already built when you buy the box. You open it up, you just have to glue them to the base. So if I, do texture on the bases and stuff like that first, and then glue them to the base, shouldn't be too big of a deal. Godfrey Robb says, hi, Uncle Adam, I backed Monster Fight Club on your recommendation. They have great looking terrain. Yeah, I love those trees. They had like a special deal at Adepticon where if you ordered them at Adepticon, because the trees that the Kickstarter folks are going to get, all the stuff from the Kickstarter folks are going to get, are going to be actual plastic. Like nice plastic, pre-painted, the whole deal. But if you ordered during Adepticon, then they were going to basically make the same style that they've been making their prototypes in, which are basically a poured resin. A little bit more along the lines of like the other stuff from like the old Gale Force 9, like the Battlefield in the box. That stuff's not plastic. That stuff is resin, like poured resin, I believe. Anyway, so I ordered 2 of the forests and 1 of the kind of like walkway, like wooden bridgey things. And hopefully they will show up eventually. But but they will be coming sooner than the Kickstarter, because the Kickstarter like I said, those are actually going to be produced as, from what I understand, in hard plastic and then pre-painted and all that stuff. These will be poured resin and pre-painted, but still, looking forward to it. They're really cool stuff. VJ Morph asks, Adam, since you've been smashing on Kill Team, do you think that Warcry will get you back into the Age of Sigmar setting? I don't know. It honestly, it depends on the rules. It depends on how that's handled and stuff, and what the game's like. Potentially, I'd like to. I think that the models that I've seen so far have looked pretty cool. So potentially, yeah. I'm not sure. Like we've got a group around here that's starting to get more into Age of Sigmar. There's people. Honestly, there's guys that still are Magic players, but then they also like HeroClix. And then when like X-Wing came out, then they were like, well, that's pretty cool. I don't have to paint those guys. They're pretty neat. So they started playing some X-Wing as well. And then Shadespire came out, and then they got really into Shadespire because they really enjoyed the play style and the cards and the deck building and all that kind of stuff. And now those same guys are actually starting to get into Age of Sigmar because they're starting a Age of Sigmar like escalation league at my local shop. So I came into the shop, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and I saw the two guys sitting there at the shop painting Skaven. Like, just these two guys that I know to be generally not miniatures players, but they've now gotten to the point now where they're painting Skaven and doing that stuff. So I'm interested. Like, Sam's building, what the heck's he building? Stormcast, I think, for that same escalation league, and because he's kind of the catalyst that got that escalation league started. So I wouldn't mind playing some 1,000-point battles. I don't really have any Age of Sigmar army up to like 1,500 or 2,000. I could, but I kind of like the 1,000-point area. I like that play size. So yeah, I haven't played Age of Sigmar in a while, but I wouldn't mind getting back into it, maybe playing some with Sam, although he's just going to stomp me with those Stormcast, but that's the way that works. Stormcast, I just have trouble with Stormcast. What else have we got here? Those green stuff world rollers for cobblestone are cool. You can get smaller 15mm sizes for Flames of War, or larger 35mm size cobblestone for Age of Sigmar Bolt Action. Yeah, I did. I was a little bummed that last show I was at, they didn't have any of the cobblestone ones, but I should definitely check into that. There's another company too that is called Happy Seppuku, and they don't make rollers, but they make like mats that have texture. So you just put, you're building a piece of terrain, or you're building a base or whatever, you put a little bit of green stuff on there, and you just take the mat and just go and kind of press it down, and then you get the texture that you want. And they have tons and tons and tons of different textures too. So I like both of those both of those companies as far as that kind of stuff is concerned. I really like the concept there. So what else? Smokin' Simile says, it's a sad day. The closest mini store is 1,200 kilometers away, and the closest GW is 1,500 kilometers away. That's a lot of kilometers. Sorry to hear that does sound far away. Eric says, for the Inquisition Kill Team, do you plan to convert your own warband and come up with the background, sort of like the Inquisition 28 stuff? Honestly, yeah. Like, that's one of the reasons I'm interested in making an Inquisition Kill Team faction or whatever, is just because I want to be able to make cool looking guys. I want to make cool looking models and have them be in there, but then be able to use them in Kill Team. Like, I could sit down, there are plenty of people who just sit down and make a cool, John Blanche style Inquisition, like heavily converted, crazy amazing looking stuff, Kill Team or not Kill Team, but they make it an inquisitorial warband, and then kind of don't play because they don't know anybody around them that plays Inquisition 28 or any Inquisitor 28, I mean, or anything along those lines. So my thought process was, if I could try to figure out a way to make it so that we can put Inquisitors into Kill Team, which more people play, and you might be able to find people who play Kill Team near you, then you can have your fun hobby time, do a lot of conversions, but still have rules that will hopefully be at least vaguely decent. So yeah, that kind of stuff should be interesting, hopefully. What else have we got here? Mike says, just finished assembling my first Age of Sigmar 1,000 points with some Iron Jaws. Yeah, those models are cool. I don't need a fourth. Yeah, I don't need a fourth Age of Sigmar army. I have my 1,000 points of Chaos, which are all painted and playable, and then I have Stormcast, just because I bought the original starter box and split the other half of the Corn Bros with Moderator Matt, and then so I've still got those guys. Plus, then I added some stuff to it so I could get it up to 1,000 points. But I haven't built any of them yet. But in between those two, I also have a Death Army, which is about halfway done. So, yeah, I'm trying not to have a fourth army for Age of Sigmar, especially since I haven't been playing it much lately. 12 Neef says, 1K and lower games are my sweet spot. I don't want to play one game all day. Yeah, same here. I get that, definitely. Ratmaster says that Happy Seppuku closed. Oh, well, that's a bummer. I thought I just looked at their website recently. Huh, well, that stinks. Patrick Wilson says, did we discuss the announcement of the Underworlds video game? No, not really. I saw the announcement a little bit. I mean, it's kind of cool. I don't know. It doesn't seem... If they basically just make it a translation of the board game, I don't know how I feel about that. You know what I mean? Like, if it's just a straight-up translation of the board game, then, you know, it's literally you're like looking at hexes and you move these guys and you have these cards and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm not sure. Like, at that point, does that then start to eat away a little bit? Because you're basically then giving people like, hey, if Shadespire is too much work for you because you have to press fit those little dudes together, you know, here's another option. That I don't know. You know, like if you look at like Dawn of War got a lot of people into Tabletop 40K, but it also wasn't Tabletop 40K. It used a lot of the same models, but it was an RTS. It was, you know what I mean? Like, it was not just like, we're going to just you know, like Tabletop Simulator is basically just like, hey, we're just, you know, Tabletop Simulator, from what I understand, I've not played it, but I've watched some stuff on it. Basically is just like a tabletop and you move things around, and they're not designed to work with any specific rules. You just have specific models, and then you and your friends sit there and play the game and say, well, I'll move these guys over here and that kind of stuff. But the game itself is not really a game. It's not controlling and saying, no, sorry, that model can't move this far. It is literally just a tabletop. If they decided to make Warhammer Underworlds Online and make it so that it was like a first-person shooter style game or a third-person like melee combat kind of game or something like that, using the characters from it, then that's kind of cool. But if they just decide to make it a one-to-one translation, you know, turn-based board game, I don't know. To me, that seems like it would potentially eat into them selling models to some degree. Because there'll be some people who'll be like, well, I'll just play it online. I won't have to then, you know, paint or build or anything. I don't know. Like, I've been playing some BattleTech on and off, the new BattleTech these days, here and there once in a while when I've got some time. And that game is like turn-based, but it's not the BattleTech board or tabletop game. It's turn-based and you can kind of look top-down. It's not like the old MechWarrior games where you're in the cockpit, but it is also not a one-to-one recreation of the game that's made by Catalyst these days. So for me, I enjoy that. And I think that people could almost... There's a potential that someone playing that game might look into the new, you know, tabletop game. We'll see. I'm not sure, but... let me see here. Sam says, do you know if Creature Caster resin is decent quality? I've been happy with it. I think it's nice quality stuff. I've got three models from them. I picked them up actually last year at Adepticon. I like them. Patrick Wilson says, do you think it would be bad for the miniatures game? So yeah, I'm kind of hoping it's wildly different. Yeah, same here. That is my concern. But like, look at like Magic. You know, there's Magic Online, you know, and all that kind of stuff, which is designed for people to play, and it's a lot like Hearthstone in that situation, I guess, except that Hearthstone doesn't have, I don't think, like actual physical cards, whereas they decided, I don't know if in that situation, I don't know if Wizards of the Coast just decided, hey, Hearthstone is eating our lunch, so we should just make a game like it for Magic, and I don't know a lot about that, so I don't know how much of that cannibalizes their own business. But yeah. Let me see. Prilo Ramen says I'd be super into a For Honor style Shadespire game. Yeah, yeah, that would be pretty cool. I was trying to think what For Honor was for a second, but then I remembered, and yeah, no, that would be very cool. I would like that, definitely. Emily says I don't know. Magic Online does fine, and the card sales don't seem to suffer. Yeah, but they're also a much larger market, so I think they can. Yeah, because I mean, if it was me, I don't know. I suppose it's also depends on like in Magic Online probably does well in those situations because you still have to buy like starter packs or whatever. So if you're Wizards of the Coast and I'm selling starter packs that don't actually exist because they're digital versus selling ones that have to actually get made out of actual atoms and then shipped around the world and all that jazz, I would see the benefit to doing that. The thing is that the unless they start charging you for each warband you want to play separately, which they probably will in this online Warhammer Underworld. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it. It's going to be interesting. My concern is in most of these situations usually is when you try to take a video game like that, or sorry, a tabletop game like that, and then turn it into a video game. I feel like it will just give an excuse to people who are like, well, I didn't want to paint anyway, which is fine. And maybe it gets just people in who weren't going to paint, and the people who are going to paint are probably going to play the tabletop version or whatever. But I think that there's sometimes a tipping point where some of those people would be like, well, now I don't have to, so I can just play the video game. I think that there are a lot of games out there that are much, much, much crunchier than Warhammer Underworlds, like a lot of games, like BattleTech. Like there's a lot going on at BattleTech, a lot of bookwork and a lot of paperwork and all that stuff. And in those situations, in my opinion, as a tabletop game gets closer and closer to trying to be simulation, then in my opinion, that should just become a video game because it would just make things a lot easier and faster. I want to do a video about that soon, about how just like one of the reasons I think that games are you're seeing more tabletop games that are streamlined is because the games that are super, super crunchy, it's just easier to make a video game now. Like if there weren't nearly as many cool video games in the 80s. I mean, there was a lot of, I love Pitfall on the 2600, don't get me wrong, but you couldn't do really cool space battle style games very easily. So you ended up trying, in a video game. So you ended up trying to make a tabletop version of that, and you had to keep track of your shields and your warp engines and all that junk. Well, now that's something you could literally do on your phone. So the tabletop games need to be a little bit more interesting and keep your mind a little bit more active, but then they need to be quick and streamlined. So that's kind of where that's at. Anyway, let me see here. What else? Ray says, I always worry about resin from companies I haven't had things from before. The detail can be great, but when it's bad, it's so much worse than metal. The detail in the Creature Caster stuff is quite good. If you go follow Sam's blog, which is samsonminis.blogspot.com, or if you just look for Sam Len's blog, like on the Google, you'll probably find it. He did a really cool Creature Caster model recently. If you follow him on Twitch too, he's done a couple actually. Now that I come to think of it, at least 2, if not 3, that I can think of. So yeah, I mean, I would think that if the detail wasn't there, Sam probably wouldn't bother. So he's been pretty happy with him. Let's see here. Emily says, I'm excited for the online because I can try out and see cards for different armies, which will likely cause me to buy more, but definitely may cause people not to buy. Yeah, I can see that benefit too. I mean, that was the big benefit, I still think to this day, with the Age of Sigmar app on the phone, is that being able to sit there like literally like on the toilet and just be like looking on your phone and go, oh, that model looks kind of cool. What are his stats like? Oh, the stats are like that. Oh, that's really cool. And then you go buy one. You know what I mean? And in some situations, some of those models you can order straight through the app, so you don't even have to get off the toilet. You know what I mean? Like, you just be like, boop, there you go, I ordered some skeletons or whatever. And so that I can see. That I wish that there was something like that. That's why I wished that instead of going with codexes and 40K, they would have just gone with an app and got rid of the codexes, just gone all data slates instead of war scrolls, so it was all downloadable. Because I feel, frankly, that when people don't have to pay, if you are selling models and rules, I think in this day and age you just sell the models and you give the rules away for free. If you are making a rule set that says, hey, use whatever models you like, well, then obviously you're going to charge for the rule set. But you're probably not going to charge much, because most people don't do that way. Anyway, that's a different story altogether. Country Gaming of ND says, hey, Adam, I wanted to thank you for that seminar at Adepticon and the video of you saying hi to my high school club. Well, absolutely. Absolutely. No problem at all. Yeah, I enjoy teaching those classes. I am teaching both the YouTube classes at Gen Con this year, which is very cool. I think Gen Con registration opens up in May. So if you're interested and you're going to Gen Con and you want to check out the YouTube seminars that I've done in the past, I'll be doing them again at Adepticon. I'm also doing a seminar, sorry, not Adepticon, Gen Con. I'm also doing a seminar at Gen Con for Game 4. Basically, like, how to find players in your area, that kind of thing. And that's going to be fun as well. So yeah, I'm teaching 3 seminars this year at Gen Con. It's the first time I've ever taught at Gen Con, so that's going to be fun too. And then at the end of August at Nova Open in DC, then I'll be teaching one YouTube class, which will kind of be like a mixture of the two, sort of squooshed together. But then I'm teaching 2 like beginner painting, kind of how to cut corners and get stuff on the table faster classes. So I'm looking forward to those. I've never taught any painting classes before either. So, I mean, other than, the videos. But yeah, so I'm going to be doing that, and I'm looking forward to it. So it's a year of firsts as far as teaching is concerned, or seminars, or whatever you want to call them. I'd say it's technically teaching. Toasted Waffles says, oh my goodness, I got Underworlds the other day, and it was just been one of the most amazing experiences ever. It's such a dynamic game with so much potential, I've barely scratched the surface. Oh, it's a great game. Yeah, absolutely. And it has been a super smart play on GW's part to like get people, just doing a lot of stuff. We've got a fleecy parade going on. Our cats, the 2 girls, have these pieces of like fleece that have been braided together. That you kind of wiggle them around, and it's a toy. And hello. And Maggie likes to put one in her mouth and then walk around the house and sing, and I don't know why, and we've referred to it as a fleecy parade. So it's done now because she's dropped it, but it's underneath the table. Her I can't lift up as easily as I can lift up Margot, because you're a bit of a sweet potato, aren't you? You're kind of a chunk. There you go. All right. So, what the heck was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So, the Warhammer Underworlds is a great game, and it's been, like, it fills that niche, like, kind of like, what the heck is it? X-Wing, where it's competitive and quick, but still got some card stuff kind of involved, so it can bring in the Magic players, which it's been doing at my local shop. So yeah, no, I think it's a smart plan on their idea. Grimlock Steve says, but don't you have to pay to view the War Scrolls in that Age of Sigmar app? No. If you want the points, then you have to pay basically to get the General's Handbook. But if you already have the General's Handbook in paper, if you bought it, basically, if you want to get points in Age of Sigmar, unless they've changed things drastically, if you want to get points in Age of Sigmar, you have to get the General's Handbook. So the question is, do you want them in the app, or do you just want them in the book? You can still look at the War Scrolls and get all that information, and then go, okay, well, now I'm interested in knowing how many points that guy is. You'd have to go look in the book for that. Like when they first released that app, they still hadn't put points, I don't believe, into Age of Sigmar yet. They were still just like, do what you want, just play how you like. And then it was finally when they were like, all right, fine, we'll give you points. And then they put them in the first General's Handbook. Was that the 2016 or 2017? I don't remember which one. But yeah, so if you want the points in the You can, but you can look at all the war scrolls for free with the Age of Sigmar app. Yeah. VJ Morph says we needed a Diesel guest appearance. He's probably sleeping in the sunroom. Finished building the Abominant. Ooh, that sounds like fun. Some weird angles to fit together on this model. Yeah, as much as I like the model of the Ambot, I'm amazed at how like some of the parts didn't go together as flush and nice as I would have expected for such a new, like obviously very 3D CAD modeled like the arms. Like I would figure that the arm in some situation like that arm where he's got up where he's holding I basically made it into a gun, but originally it was just another claw. Like it doesn't. Like I had to kind of glue it and hold it in a spot because there was no good spot where it just like kind of went in. I'm not even talking about push fit. Like it just felt like it never completely seated, and I was kind of surprised by that. Like the legs and the rest of it were fine, but the arms on both sides were just a little squirrely, and I was kind of surprised. But otherwise, pretty good model. I enjoyed it. Let's see here. Patrick Wilson says, if you haven't heard, Privateer Press is going to be releasing a hex-based skirmish game called Riot Quest that also is fast-paced, loot-grabbing lore offshoot. You'll also be able to use the minis in the regular game. Well, that's probably not a bad idea, yeah. Dryad Skull says, is it better to get an airbrush or just continue using a paintbrush? I think it's a really good idea to get an airbrush if you can. Especially if you live in an area where it's difficult to prime. Like maybe it's too humid a lot of times, like let's say you live in Georgia, or if it's too cold a lot of times, let's say if you live here, or if it rains a lot, that kind of stuff, just all that kind of jazz. Being able to prime like in the house very easily, do one model, not stink up the entire hobby room, basement, whatever, wherever it is you paint, you prime. I think that's really helpful. And then going beyond priming and getting into base coating and maybe just a little bit of highlighting. I'm not saying you have to paint the entire model with airbrush, but I've definitely found myself speeding up in a lot of things by just being like, I'll just quickly airbrush this, and it does help a lot. But you still end up using a normal paintbrush for a lot of the model, or at least the details of the model, that kind of stuff, Let me see here. Zach says, I'm new to painting. How do you deal with things like Necrons who have their guns across their chests? Do I just base it all the same? It depends. So there are plenty of people out there, more so with Space Marines than Necrons. But Space Marines have got a bolter, which is a big, bulky gun. And a lot of them hold it up kind of close across their chest, right? Now they are covering this big eagle design on their armor. So there are a lot of people that will keep the arms off so they can paint the eagle design on the armor and then glue the gun on later and all that stuff. I am not one of those guys. I generally think to myself, if I can't really see the eagle on your chest, then I kind of don't need to paint it. I'm also one of those people who, for the most part, like I know that 40K, especially Space Marines, are covered in all kinds of skulls and this and that and the other thing, but I still like the concept of like their armor has a lot of molded shapes and things in it, but I still like the idea of a lot of it being painted sort of the same color to give it at least a little bit more of a vaguely military feel. Like if you look at a World War II tank, everything is painted green, like everything. They don't go, well, this part's going to be this color and this part's going to be that color and this part's going to be like everything is painted green, and they put a star on it and send it out the factory. And I know that like you see drawings of like super high end like captains and lieutenants and stuff like that for Space Marines, and they're just covered in gold and silver and all this stuff, and I've always just been kind of like, that seems like a lot too much. And I understand the story and why they do it, but I generally don't do that. Now with Necrons, they don't have they've got like technically a little symbol sort of here. With Necrons, I basically just I prime them black and then I dry brush them silver. Or if you're getting fancy, you could just paint them all silver with like an airbrush or a rattle can, and then do a couple of washes, and then start going, and then be highlight up again with a little bit of silver dry brush and go to town. I from time to time I do models that I do in assembly or sub-assembly, meaning I build most of the model, but I keep some parts off. You know, like if there's a huge shield they're carrying, I will frequently keep that off because you can maybe still see behind the shield, and they've got a lot going on, and it's going to be really hard to paint if the shield is there. And if it's not too hard to do it that way separately, I will do that. Same with some capes, but sometimes with capes, I'm also just like, I'm just going to paint it. I mean, I'll get as much paint up inside, you know, underneath the cape, on the backside, you know, between the person and the cape. I'll get as much paint up in there as I can. But if you pick up my model and look at it upside down and go, oh, you didn't paint way up inside there, well, you shouldn't be doing that. Stop touching my models. You should ask. Anyway, that's kind of where that's at. Patrick asks, Uncle Adam, have you ever ran or participated in a tabletop RPG in which the combat rules were the same as your favorite war game? Have you considered doing any videos of something similar? I'm not a big RPG guy. Like, when I first started, when I was like first started playing like what we considered to be nerd-style games, you know, not Monopoly or Sorry. My first, like, 5th grade, I was playing D&D. So I have played RPGs in the past. I played some in... I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, we kind of got into a thing for a while. When I was in college, we played Rollmaster, based in Middle-earth, and we also played Shadowrun. And then, actually, about a year or so ago, we were playing 5th edition D&D at work, sometimes during lunch. But for the most part, I'm not an RPG guy, so I don't know why. It's just not really my area of interest for some reason. I don't know. I think it's the problem is I'm not a very good role player, I think, is part of it. That's maybe what it is. So yeah. Hey Uncle Adam, love your channel. Any advice on how to play test a kill team against yourself? How to play test a kill team against yourself? Well, in that situation, I guess I would try to play both parts as well as you can. Like if the team that you're trying to test, if you put it up against another one of your teams that you've been playing in the past, and you play this team you've been playing in the past poorly, or you maybe don't, you know, try your hardest on that, you're gonna not give a good test to this army that you're testing out. That all being said, I would say your best bet is, if you can, try to play test against other people. You know, maybe give them one of your armies that's a known quantity for you, and say, you run with this, and I'm going to test my new army, and then play that way. You'll potentially learn two things. Number one, you'll learn about this army that you're testing, and try to find where its weaknesses are and that kind of stuff and whatever. And again, I'm saying all this from the place of not being a competitive player, but this just makes sense to me. The second thing that you may learn is you may learn all kinds of interesting new stuff about the army that you already know all about, because you've given it to your friend, and now they're playing it, and they're playing it potentially differently than you are. So they may do something that you're like, well, I never thought of doing it that way before, or I never thought of putting these two people next to each other and then getting the combo this way, or whatever. Or maybe they may use a tactic card or whatever that you hadn't thought of. So there's some benefit to doing that too. Especially like the people who get into competitive play and go to tournaments and do all that kind of stuff, they practice. And that's, I think, important. When I play because I want to have a good time. But the people who are like getting ready for big tournaments like Adepticon or LVO or Nova or stuff like that, those people are practicing when they are getting together and playing at the shop on a Saturday or whatever. That's not fun time necessarily. I mean, they're probably having an okay time, at least a good, okay, at least, probably maybe even a good time. But they are practicing because they are trying to learn and figure stuff out and whatever. Whereas I generally go into gameplay without a plan, because that sounds like a lot of work. So, yeah, that's definitely the case. Rangers of Shadow Deep is like a role-playing game that gives you your favorite miniature rules if your favorite miniature rules are Frostgrave. Well, it's written by the same guy, so yeah. Yeah, Rangers of Shadow Deep, and Frostgrave. If you want like a little bit more RPG flavor, I would definitely take a look at both of those. Frostgrave is published by Osprey. Rangers of Shadow Deep is self-published by the author Joe McCullough. So Rangers of Shadow Deep you need to get from rpgnow.com, or DriveThruRPG is another URL that goes to the exact same website. And then you can buy it as a PDF, or you can buy it as a print-on-demand book, and they will ship it to you. I have both. Joe sent me the PDF, and then I bought a copy of the hardcover, or not hardcover, it's actually softcover, but hard copy, because I wanted to check it out. And it's a cool game. It's very well done, I think. So yeah, if you're interested in a little bit more RPG in your miniatures, I would definitely look at both of those because they're great. I mean, there's not particularly like role playing where you're saying, and then I went to the tavern and said this, that kind of stuff. But it's definitely like some of your people are leveling up. There's some campaign type stuff. It can go like you can make longer campaigns and things like that. And it's not just let's go on the field and fight until one of us is dead. It's a little bit more interesting than that, which I enjoy. So. Let me see. Paul says, a guy at my local store only has one kill team, so I've lent him my Thousand Suns before, and you do learn watching others. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, when you have somebody else play your army, you do learn new things about it. I should probably make a video about that. I'm going to just make a quick recording on my phone. Yeah, so when you have somebody else play your army, then you learn new things about your army, and that's maybe an idea for a video. There we go. That's how the sausage is made, my friends. I record. Sometimes I type things, but it would be rude for me to sit here and type on my phone for 3 minutes or whatever. So I just record it and I'll type it later. Serpent Tongue 86 says, "Hey guys, just dropped in. Did I miss the Inquisition talk?" No, not as of yet. Probably just about to start talking a bit about it. Travis Becker says, question, does anyone know a good company other than Feldher? I've heard of them, but I can never pronounce their name properly. That has pre-cut foam trays for Underworld warbands. I like their products, but worry about the shipping address format not matching. Battle Foam, I know, has... I don't know if they have all... Well, they must have I bet you they have the newest. Maybe not the newest, like the new, like last week or this week, the Caradon Overlords or whatever. They may not have trays for that yet, but I have... it's a bag called C4 from them, and I think it's a C4. Yeah, I think it's a C4, and it is it can carry, I think, two. Like they have a loadout that they sell for Warhammer Underworld, so it'll carry 2 warbands plus all the cards and tokens and all that junk and stuff like that. It's got like 3 pieces of foam. It's like one big piece of foam in the bottom that takes care of all the cards and stuff and the tokens, and then there's 2 pieces of foam in the top, one for each warband, so you can swap. And then they make trays for all different warbands. So I would definitely take a look at Battle Foam for your needs in that. And they have a facility in the UK and one in the United States. So depending on where you are, like when you first go to the website, it'll say, hey, where are you? When you click, and then it takes you there. So definitely take a look at that. I would say I know that their stuff is good. Like I said, that's what I own for my Shadespire stuff. I just touched it yesterday because I was trying to move something so I could get something else into the basement, and I had to move it out of the way. But it's not a huge case. It's, I don't know, maybe 14, 15 inches across by about maybe a foot high tops, and it's maybe about that thick, which you can't tell from here. That's, let's say, I don't know, 8 inches maybe. And not too expensive either, I don't think. But good. I like them. Let me see here. Would a box of 20 Frostgrave soldiers be enough to play Rangers of Shadow Deep? Don't know what else I could or /should use. I mean, the thing is that with like for the actual Rangers and all that stuff, you don't need nearly that many guys, but you do need models kind of for the bad guys. So you want to look for, and you can get away with using like D&D, like pre-paint models that you can buy on, eBay and stuff like that. But take a look at if you buy the book, it will have a bunch of campaigns and in it and missions and stuff for the campaigns, and then it'll be like, hey, in this campaign you need 3 gnolls and 2 skeletons and blah blah and whatever, so you kind of go from there. But your normal warband is actually like you need a ranger and some folks, and it's considerably smaller. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about how I'm getting started with the Inquisition. The Inquisition. All right, so poke, 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 poke. This is my iPad. Notes. Got some sort of schmutz. So my thought is this. Initially, I was thinking, okay, well, they are super crazy powerful Inquisitors. Because I had just recently reread / listened to Eisenhorn. And yeah, that's true, they are. But not all of them, and not necessarily when they first start. So my thought process is the first list I'm going to write is going to be just for standard kill team. And so you're going to have an Inquisitor, and you can only have one in your group, obviously, which makes sense. And the Inquisitor has to be a leader. So I'm looking at other models that are leaders that are within the current kill team's rules and saying, okay, like, if you look at the lictors from, which don't have to be leaders, but they're like the biggest model you can get in the Tyranids. They're like 25 points. Because I started looking at it initially and thinking, okay, well, maybe this is a 50-point model, but that's a really, really powerful single model. There's almost no other models right now in normal vanilla kill team that are that expensive. So I started looking at some other stuff, and I started looking at the Justicar from the Grey Knights. And that model is like, let me see here. That model is 19 points. But he's got a move of 6. He's got 3 up for both ballistic and weapon skill. He's got 4 strength, 4 toughness, which an Inquisitor I don't think should have strength and toughness because they haven't been genetically modified like Space Marines have pretty much. So, and then they have 1 wound, the Justicar does, which is a little weird, but that's how it is. And then they've got 2 attacks, an 8 leadership, and then a 3-up save, which is because they've got power armor. And that's a 19-point model. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of a baseline to start with. And then I looked at the Inquisitor rules from what the hell is it called? Shadow War Armageddon. Now, the Inquisitor from Shadow War Armageddon... No, I take that back. I'm sorry. I back up. I looked at the Inquisitor rules from the Index for when they re-released 8th edition. So I went and dug through the Index there, and that model, Inquisitor in the Index, which is in the Imperium 2 book, is 55 points. So that's, again, getting back to that, like half of your entire army in a normal kill team. And that guy is also got a 6 movement. He's 3 up and 3 up for weapon skill and ballistic skill. But he is strength 3 and toughness 3, which makes sense to me because they, again, like I said, not actual Space Marines. 5 wounds, which is weird. We're not going to go that hard, frankly. And then 4 attacks, which is also, a little odd. And then a 9 leadership, which makes sense, and a 4-up save. And he has standard, like he's not got Space Marine armor. It's like Carapace armor or something like that, which makes more sense to me. So right now, my thought process is the Inquisitor itself is going to be probably about 20 points is where I'm looking at. Again, going to have a 6 movement, so a speedy person. 3 up for ballistic and weapon skill. Makes sense in my opinion. 3 strength, 3 toughness. Again, I'm thinking 2 wounds, which is going to put them in the realm of like a Primaris, because they've got 2 wounds in kill team. But 5 wounds seems crazy to me, especially in kill team. A big portion of this is me going through and looking at other armies in kill team and saying, okay, well, like I think a Lictor in kill team is still only got like 4 wounds. So that's, and they're like a huge scary bug monster. So yeah, I'm going to start play testing some of this stuff and tweaking it. 3 attacks though, and partially for me, that was a situation of just, again, remembering back to Eisenhorn and him with that crazy Barbaceda blade and doing all that fancy shenanigans. So I'm like, yeah, I would think that they would be pretty good on that. I almost kicked around the idea of making weapon skill 2 up instead of 3 up, but I'm like, well, we're going to test it this way. And then a 9 leadership, which makes sense. And then, like I said, 4 up save. They will start probably with a bolt pistol, chainsword, frag, and crack. And I'm going to give them the Psyker ability and make it give them Cybolt, which is basically the same thing as the Justicar has got. So he's a point more than a Justicar, but he has more wounds, less strength and toughness. He's got less in the way of armor because it's a 4 up instead of a 3 up save. So that's kind of my starting idea. Now I've had a lot of people say, "Oh, it'd be really smart to make it so that you have to play commanders, to be able to play with your inquisitorial warband, because then the Inquisitor could be the commander, and then the rest of the people that you have in your army then, or your group or whatever, your warband, those are all the normal retinue." The problem is that not a lot of people play commanders, and I want to make it more accessible to folks who do that kind of stuff, who want to be able to sit down and play regular Kill Team. So my thought process, after doing a bunch of fluff research and reading up a bunch of things, I think that I'm going to have, for normal Kill Team, this is your Inquisitor. And they're not exactly a junior Inquisitor, but I'm not going to write that down, but they kind of are a new Inquisitor. If I get to the point then where we want to make an actual commander as your Inquisitor, and you want to play a commander game with your friend or whatever, both of you have to play commanders then you're talking about a Lord Inquisitor, or potentially High Inquisitor, whatever, however you want to, interchange those two titles. But your Lord Inquisitor would be commander, and then there would be no regular, because just like in normal commander games, I don't think that you have a commander and a leader and some other stuff. I'll have to double check. But that's kind of the plan there. So that's what I'm looking at so far to start with just the Inquisitor role specifically within that and everything. Let me take a look at what people are saying. Have you thought about using the Rogue Trader rules as a base? I don't have the Rogue Trader stuff. I should maybe look. I don't know. I really, really, really don't like a lot of the models in that box. I don't know what it is, but there's something about the way that a lot of them are sculpted. They're sculpted well. They're very technically well done, but just the visual aesthetic of the Gellerpox and the Rogue Trader folks in there, I just don't like. So yeah, I haven't done that. So Kelvin says make the Inquisitor a commander. Like I said, I think that the Inquisitor is going to only be a commander if it's a Lord Inquisitor. Otherwise, the normal Inquisitor. And again, the reason for that is so that you can play with, because if you go back and read a bunch of the fluff, you get these Inquisitors who have just started out and they have a very small retinue. So in my opinion, 100 points is great, because you can get a 20, and I may end up having to skew that Inquisitor a little bit higher in points wise. So maybe he's 21, 22. And then you get, some other folks in that group, and it's a small group, and there you go. If you go commander, if you start playing the commander version of Kill Team, and then you're going to have a Lord Inquisitor who's probably going to be in power armor, probably going to be even more psychic, more wounds, very potentially a 2-up for at least weapon skill, that kind of stuff. And then you're spending, and plus they can level, then you're spending, maybe 100 points alone on just a specific Inquisitor, and then you've got a group of the retinue, the other acolytes and things like that. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out those kind of points. Serpent Tongue says not all Inquisitors are psychers. Maybe make it optional. Yeah, that's also a possibility. I've been kicking that idea around a little bit too. And then Jacob also says there is the Interrogator, the boots on the ground command just under the main Inquisitor. I thought about doing that too. I thought about making the normal Kill Team version where you'd have the Interrogator and a retinue, and then if you wanted to play with the Commander's upgrade or whatever, the Commander's rule set, then that's the Inquisitor. But I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm trying to figure out if I want to have, as I thought about the Interrogator, I think then that people would end up playing just an Interrogator with some other folks, and I'm not sure yet, but I'm trying to figure that out. I like the concept of the Inquisitor being very powerful, but there are still, when you're reading the fluff and stuff like that, there's still people who are brand new, Inquisitors who are still not, up there yet. And so I'm loath to call this Inquisitor a junior Inquisitor in the actual like text when I write it. And I almost think that maybe Interrogator is a little too low. I don't know. I'm not quite sure yet. I'm not quite sure. Let me see. In my opinion, says Victor, the Inquisitor has to have similar to the Rogue Trader Warband. Have to be similar to Rogue Trader Warband. I'm not quite sure what that means. I'll have to double check and take a look at that. Wayne says, so glad you're doing this. I never looked at the models till you made the announcement. They are so my speed. Can't wait for an excuse to buy them. Well, there you go. Zingbo says you have to have a leader in a commander's kill team. So you have to have a leader as well. See, I played it, when I first got it, I played it like once, and I haven't really gotten into it because it's just a lot more work. I don't know, but so if you have to have a leader and a commander, I don't know. Then maybe Interrogator is the way to go, because then you get your Interrogator, and then you've got, I don't know. I mean, you could have it an Inquisitor. Like, there are plenty of times, at least in Eisenhorn, where it was Eisenhorn and then some Lord Inquisitor who'd come along and they were all working together. So there's no downside to doing that as well. I don't think so. So let me talk about some other stuff that I've also come up with. So, again, I've had people that have been like, oh, it'd be super cool for you to do this and this and this and have all these different options and arcoflagellants and all that kind of stuff or whatever. And I don't, when I go through and look at the kill teams lists that are in the normal straight kill team book, like, there's maybe one army that has 5 choices. There are some armies that have 1 choice. Like Grey Knights, well, I mean, technically Grey Knights have got really 3 choices, because you can go Grey Knight Gunner, or Justicar. But there's not a lot of different choices. There's very few armies have a ton of different choices. So I'm looking right now, like, I don't know that I want to have more than 5 different choices in that army list. So one's going to be the Inquisitor or Interrogator, depending on which way I go on that. And then I want to have Inquisitorial Acolyte, obviously. That's kind of a standard. And then I'm thinking about Inquisitorial Acolyte Gunner. So right now I'm looking at both of those being like around 11 points. And they are, again, both movement 6. Both of them are weapon skill and ballistic skill 4 up, because they're not as fancy. Strength 3, toughness 3, which means they're basically standard humans. We're talking 1 wound on both of them. The Inquisitorial Acolyte, I'm thinking, is 2 attacks, whereas the Inquisitorial Acolyte Gunner is only 1. And then they are currently leadership 8 in my mind, but I'm almost wondering if they shouldn't be 7. I don't know. Because I'm thinking about giving the Inquisitor a special rule, where if you're within 6 inches of them, you get to use their leadership instead of your own, or something along those lines. You know what I mean? And then, again, giving them a 4-up save, because, again, probably Carapace armor. And they're more the, I don't want to say shock troops, but they're the tougher, definitely more, well-equipped, more armored type folks that follow around the Inquisitor. Again, going back to Eisenhorn, he's got some pretty tough folks that follow him around with in some situations, some heavy machinery. So that's the gunner in this situation basically is going to have the access to get to Flamer or Melta or Plasma, and I'm looking at each of those being a 3-point add-on or upgrade. And I haven't quite considered yet what the Acolyte is going to. Basically, both of these will be able to start with a hotshot las gun, frag and crack. The gunner will be able to switch, basically get rid of the las gun, the hotshot las gun, and get Flamer, Melta, or Plasma. And I think that the Acolyte, you'll be able to swap out the las gun to maybe a hotshot las pistol, or I don't know, maybe a bolt pistol, but maybe I want to stick with the smaller las pistol just because he's not as beefy, and then some sort of sword. My concern is I don't want just like everybody to be able to like wield a power sword at this level. Power swords should be predominantly carried, in my opinion, by Space Marines, and not all Space Marines, obviously. Most of them have to carry chain swords. So yeah, I'm trying to figure that out still too. But I think these points are not too bad. I think that the Inquisitorial Acolyte, you can have an unlimited number of those in your list, obviously up to your points level or whatever. Whereas the Acolyte Gunner, I think I'm going to limit it at 2 instead of 4. Like on a lot of lists, as I've been going through and looking at them, a lot of them have gunners limited at 4, but I think I'm going to limit that to 2. So that's kind of like where I've started, and I've also done some work on like, you're going to be able to choose whether you're going to be Ordo Xenos, Ordo Malleus, or Ordo Hereticus. And I'm thinking that if you're Ordo Xenos, you'll be able to bring a single Death Watch. If you are Ordo Malleus, you're going to be able to bring a single Grey Knight. Again, you have to pay the points and all that kind of stuff, but they'll just be the straight stats for those guys that are already in Kill Team. And then for Hereticus, some people have said, oh, you got to bring Sisters of Battle, which, depending on when they come out, I may be able to do that. But I'm also considering bringing instead maybe just a Crusader, which I haven't written any stats for yet. But I'm thinking about going in that direction. So, I don't know. I'd like the idea of being able to bring a Crusader. But I also want to be able to have a couple other kind of models and stuff. So I'm still trying to figure some of that jazz out. The Inquisitor could swap. It would basically go... the base stuff the Inquisitor would get would be Bolt Pistol, Chainsword, Frag, and Crack. But you can swap the Chainsword for a Power Sword or Power Fist. I think it'd be kind of cool to see an Inquisitor with Power Fist. You don't hear about that too much in the fluff, but if you go and look at, like... Shadow War Armageddon, they can take them, and I think you can in the regular index as well with an Inquisitor. I have to double check on that. And then you can also swap the Bolt Pistol out for a Hotshot Las Pistol or Plasma Pistol. So the Power Sword's a +1 points-wise. Power Fist is +2 on top of the current Inquisitor points. And then Bolt Pistol for Las Pistol is a 0, and Plasma Pistol is 1. I'm just looking at other stats on other guys and trying to kind of figure that out. I would love it if there was some sort of equation that GW used so you could figure out the points, but yeah, they don't do that. They don't do that. So that's right now, like, pretty much all the notes that I've got written, and I'm trying to figure out. So, like I said, I'm trying to figure out if I want a Crusader to just be a standard that anybody can take, or if it's only for Hereticus. Trying to figure out some other kind of stuff like that. So I'm trying to... That's where we're kind of at currently. What else have we got here going on in the chat? Battle Round Zero says Crusaders 2. Yeah, I definitely think that Crusaders should be in there. Yuri the Brave says that Tadius the Purifier and Pious Vorn from Blackstone Fortress would fit great into an Inquisitor's retinue. You could include a special rule that they can be included and have their keyword changed. Yeah, I could see that. Tadius or whatever has to be a commander, I believe. I don't think that he can run as a standard. If I go, I'd have to go back and look at the stuff, but I don't think he can run as like a standard leader or whatever. I think he has to be a commander, but I'd have to double check on that. Pious Vorn, I know, can be like there has to be a zealot, I think, but they don't have to be a commander, so they can be put into like right now they can only be put into Imperial Guard as a zealot, but we could probably do the same type of thing for Inquisition. That'd be very cool, I think. Anion says bringing a single Marine makes sense. I like it. I mean, a storyline, it makes sense in my opinion, because and even if you go back and look at Shadow War Armageddon, the inquisitorial list for that, you have, if you built up a bunch of your Prometheum charges, then on a single battle, you could spend a couple Promethean charges, and you could always bring these like kind of one-off, like I just have them for this particular game, and then they go off and do other stuff again. I forget what they were called, not specialists, but they were called something. And those models in Inquisition were that you could bring a Death Watch, and I'm like, well, that makes sense. But then again, the Inquisition, I think in Shadow War Armageddon was only Ordo Xenos. I don't remember if you had the choice to be able to switch between like that. So, but yeah, I think that'd be kind of fun. It also allows you to then build, like, if you want to go nuts and build like one really cool looking Grey Knight or one really cool looking, Death Watch or something like that. I could see that. What else here? Jason Fisher says that Order Hereticus, I would either go Crusader or Preacher. Yeah, I could see. Like I said, I think I'm probably going to end up going Crusader on that. Now, like that Tadius model, Tadius the Purifier, you could run that as something else if you wanted to. Like that could be your Preacher. You know what I mean? You don't have to run him as the rules that are already in Blackstone Fortress. It would just be easier then because you just go, oh yeah, this person can get added on. And I could easily see doing that as well with, there's actually a bunch of models in there I could see just saying, hey, this can also be, but again, not the ones that are commanders. I don't think I could see pushing the commanders in there. Because in my mind, if I make an expansion out of this for commanders, then it has to be, the commander has to be at the very least an Inquisitor, if not a High Inquisitor. So, or Lord Inquisitor, or whatever you want to call. Scott B says, need some demon hosts. Give them flavor other than space humans with different hats. Well, yeah, I mean, there's obviously a lot of different stories about, who likes demon hosts and who thinks that it's an abomination within the Inquisition. So there's that. And I'm still kicking around that idea. I do want to have, because you're right. I mean, right now, you've got the Inquisitor, and then you've got, at least in my list that I'm working on, you've got 2 different types of acolytes, which you can model up in a lot of really super cool ways, but stats-wise, they're sort of standard. One thing I don't want to do is make this list super overpowered or super weird, crazy, so different from everybody else. If you go through and look at Kill Team, there is a lot of, frankly, I don't want to say samishness, but there is, like these guys are pretty much like this and these guys are pretty much like that, and there's a lot of, they're following I don't know what you would call it. They're following, I want to say they're following a routine, but they're following like a pattern, and they're like, this is how Kill Team is done. And, obviously you've got crazy stuff like Harlequins. You've got crazy stuff like the Drakari. You've got, Gene Stealer cults have kind of got their own kind of cool stuff going on. So I want to add some flavor like that, but the normal stat line is kind of the normal stat line. There's only so much you can do with it. And again, like I said, I don't want to make anybody who's got like a crazy amount of wounds, because from just the playing that I've done, like Primaris are beefy because they have 2 wounds and they have the transhuman physiology or whatever, so they ignore the negative to that first flesh wound. So, you have to wound them once, twice, 3 times before they actually have to start rolling more poorly. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So it's as long as they don't die after that second wound, don't get me wrong. But yeah, that's kind of the way that works. So there we go. Travis Becker asks, have you played Warhammer 40k Inquisitor Martyr? This made me wish for an Inquisitorial Kill Team. Also looking at RPG in the 28mm conversion. I have not played the Inquisitor Martyr game. I've looked at it on YouTube a little bit, but I have not played it. It seems interesting, though. Gary says the Crusader should be for all 3. See, and that's the trick, too, is I also think that the Crusader should be for all 3, which is why then it wouldn't work super well for the kind of add-on for Hereticus. I suppose technically Hereticus doesn't have to have an add-on, and maybe they have some other fancy prize that they get by being. I'll have to figure that out. But I do really want Crusaders to be for everybody. I really do, kind of. Hey, look, it's our old pal moderator Matt. He is here in the chat. He is at Little Wars, which is a convention in Illinois that is a miniatures convention, mostly skewing a little bit more towards historicals, but not completely. And he's there, Matt's there, running a booth for Wreckage, of course, showing the historical folks that the post-apocalypse can be fun, post-collapse, excuse me, can be a good time, and and they should buy some. So, and he's running demos at the table, and so he had said that he didn't know if he was going to be able to make it today, but he has poked his head in, so it's always good to see moderator Matt. And one of these days I'm going to actually make it to Little Wars, but it is not this year, obviously. So, let me see here. What else have we got? Got a bunch of other people. Try to add Khorne Bloodletters as a unit choice as a Chaos team. That'd be interesting. VJ Morph says, maybe Inquisition versus Space Skaven Kill Team for TMX 2020. I think that's a good idea. I saw you guys talking about Space Skaven earlier. I think, yeah, probably Mantic is about the only company that makes the Space Rats. I've got a good friend here in town who is making, for his Age of Sigmar army, he's running them as Caradon Overlords, and he's buying Caradon Overlord models, but then he is basically removing the dwarf heads and putting Skaven heads on them. So they are in the full like armor and stuff like that, and they have the big weird floaty balloon thing above them and all that stuff. But then it's rat head instead of dwarf head, and they look really cool. He's done really good work on there. Let me see, what else have we got here? MN5 says, Witchfinder for Hereticus can deny psychic powers or get a bonus attack in strength versus psychers. Also has a flamer somehow. Here's the issue with, because I've thought about a bunch of like, some people have said, well, what about distaff, or whatever, so that it doesn't, so it can block psychic powers. Nearly nobody has psychic powers in Kill Team. That's the weird thing, is I'm going through and reading the rules. Like, I eventually want to build a Grey Knight Kill Team, because I own a box of like 5 Grey Knights, and I was like, oh, that'd be kind of fun. And I've never really painted Grey Knights before, so again, it's one of those things. But I started looking at the rules for it, and it's got all these rules about how they get to do all these cool things against demons. But nobody has the demon keyword in Kill Team. So I'm like, well, that's kind of dumb. And it's sort of the same thing with some situations. Like, you get all this stuff where they're like, oh yeah, no, you can do all this anti-psyker stuff. Well, the only psyker in the game is in there's not too many. There's definitely Grey Knights, and I think there's one other psyker that I can think of, but I can't think of it now. But I've come across it recently. Like, the Tyranids have some sort of vaguely psychic abilities, but there's not a lot of psychic going on in Kill Team, which is weird. And the fact that the Grey Knights have all these anti-demon powers when the demons aren't in Kill Team, that's also, I think, kind of weird. At least it's come across that way to me. Maybe I'm not looking at it right, but yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Jason Fisher says, have you thought about having the assassin in the Kill Team? The assassins are really tough. Like, really, really, really tough. And I'm not sure. I'm thinking about it. But, yeah, I'm not sure yet. The other thing, too, is that, well, I mean, there's a benefit. Like, you wouldn't have to run a specific, like, Vindicare assassin or whatever. You could just make an assassin class, and then it's up to you as the player to make a really cool conversion on what you consider to be an inquisitorial assassin, as opposed to a specific Vindicare, Calexis, whatever. There are all those different crazy ones. But yeah, something like that. Maybe that's definitely a potential there. John Ashley Smith says, kind of surprised the Skaven haven't made the jump to 40k. Yeah, that is a little surprising. I'm not going to lie. I would have preferred... Well, I was going to say I would have preferred 40k Skaven instead of Wet Elves in Age of Sigmar, but I suppose it doesn't really... It's not the same thing. Yeah, but it definitely... that's... Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if my friend with the rats, if he's got them on his Instagram, because we might want to go by and take a look, because they're fun. Holding that down, hitting this, doing that, clicking. I don't remember. What the heck is his... Shoot, now I can't remember his damn... I know this is great streaming. I can't remember his... I'll have to share it if I can find out. He's got a really hard to remember Instagram handle, and so looking it up is hard. Wait. Maybe I can just go look at my follows. As a person whose job it is to do user experience, I find this, what do you call it? Instagram, I find it difficult to use. Sometimes. No. Well, come on. I know I follow him. Maybe I don't follow him on... Oh, maybe I don't follow him on that one. Hang on. Get out of the way. Okay. or maybe he deleted his entire. There's no reason he would do that. Anyway, they're very cool. I will try to find them and post them if I can at some point. I'm just not coming across them. Nope, nope, nope. Nope. Oh, there's one of them. There it is. Adeptus. Okay. Found it. All right. So let me try to do that real quick, and then maybe show you some cool stuff. Instagram.com/Adeptus _ PORCINES. All right. One of those. Okay. So, Adeptus Porcinus, which is like a pig thing, because he's the minister of pork for Porkhammer 40,000. He likes pork a lot. He's a chef as well. Here we go. Cool. It's kind of hard to see, but they're there. So yeah, those are his, I knew that they were out there. These are his Caradon Overlord Skaven folk, which are pretty awesome. And he's like given them like the spears in some situations, and he's done some of the warpstone stuff, and he's made like the warpstone shenanigans going on with the floaty bits here. I think they're very well done, and he did really good work on them. So yeah, if you want to see some well painted things, you might want to go check out Adeptus _ Porcinus on the Instagram. Oh, here's some cool pictures too. Yeah, so definitely, I think neat stuff, and he does good work. And sometimes I get to play Kill Team against him, which is also a lot of fun. Do this and do this. Oh, I'm getting a kitty who's stuck on my jeans. What do you? Thank you. Okay. Let's see here. What else? Where else are we at here? Are Skaven heads on GW Steampunk Dwarves Bodies tournament legal? I mean, like if you play them as the normal stats for Caradon Overlords, that's fine. And since they are GW products on GW oh geez, sorry, I did the thing there. If they're GW products on GW products, then it should be fine. I would think so. I think that they do. If you put like Mantic heads on GW bodies, or somebody else's company's heads on GW bodies, and then went to a tournament, you might get hassled, but it's hard to say. But since they're Skaven heads, which are made by GW, I don't think there should be any problem. Let me see here. Yep, got stuck in the YouTube wormhole. That is, I forgot about the thing. So yeah. So anyway, that's where I'm at right now, at least with the Inquisition stuff. I've got some things to think about, and I've also got some. What I want to do, my next step is to try to flesh it out to get around roughly 5 stat lines or whatever in the list. So again, probably Inquisitor, maybe Interrogator, but I kind of like that idea of being Inquisitor. We'll see. And then Acolyte, Gunner, and then hopefully, at least 2 more. Probably a Crusader, and then something else in there, and then I want to play test. Build some rosters and playtest, just proxy a lot of models and whatever, and then do some playtesting and see with some friends of mine and just see like how the points look and how that kind of stuff works. And then I want to kind of do a little more tweaking, and then I want to write basically a beta list. I may also then try to throw in the commander thing as well for a Lord Inquisitor and see how it goes, but we'll see. That's where it'll get hopefully soon. I'm probably going to work on it a little bit more even this evening, because I've got some stuff I got to get done this afternoon, but I think this evening I might do a little bit more about it as well. So, let me see. Guillermo says, "There goes my War Machine Trencher passing as a lieutenant with pistol and power sword." Um, yeah, it depends on it depends on the tournament. If you go to like a local, independent store, they probably won't hassle you, but it's always a good idea to ask the TO up front and say, "Hey, my, army for 40K is predominantly built out of this and this and this, and is that okay? Or I've got these pieces on there or whatever." If you go to a big tournament, Adepticon or Nova or LVO or those kind of things, then you definitely want to look through the rules and find out. And if you don't find clarity from the rules, then you go and you contact the TO specifically and say, maybe send them some pictures and go, "Look, this is what I did. Is this going to be a problem?" Yeah, that's probably what I would look at. Pokecactus says, "Add Warlord class Titans as a choice." LOL. That's I don't want to go down that road. There's a lot of people that I feel want Kill Team in general to go down that road. Like, they just, I get people all the time. They're just like, "Well, I'd like to really play Kill Team, but you can't take, a Chaos Predator, or I can't take a Land Raider." And you're like, "Well, that game's called 40K. You just play for regular 40K and it'd be fine." I don't want to take a vehicle in Kill Team. That's the whole point of why I'm playing Kill Team. I don't want to do, it's just that kind of stuff. I think it's important to differentiate the two and have this be very small skirmish and then have 40K be 40K, and that's fine. And I think to some degree that's what they're doing as well with, obviously, with Warcry. I mean, that's one of the reasons that, again, it's trying to get people into the hobby, and the fact that they're doing it with Warhammer Underworlds, where Warhammer Underworlds is like, "Hey, you can buy Warhammer Underworlds, and these models, if you want to, you can bring them into Age of Sigmar for when you start your Age of Sigmar army." And then you're like, "What Age of Sigmar army?" And they're like, "What? What did you? What? I'm sorry. Were you talking?" And because they're just constantly trying to push you into buying more models, which is the business plan, and I get it. It makes sense, and you have the choice to not follow that business plan, but they do want to make it out there. Because, if you go back 5 years ago, there was two ways to get into 40K or into Games Workshop for the most part. You either started a fantasy army, which was humongous, or you started a 40K army, which was also humongous. And now they've, finally gotten smart and been like, "You know what we could do? We get you to buy enough models over time with a bunch of these different things. Eventually you will end up somehow with an army, or very close to one, and you'll be like, well, if I just bought 2 more boxes of these guys, I've got 1,000 points for Age of Sigmar," or whatever. So, yeah. It's a smart way to go, I think. Action Toys says, "Greetings from Mexico City. Currently painting some Tyranid warriors. It showed up as a mistaken stock at my friendly local game store. For the Inquisition list, you could use the Blackstone Priest's stats as a baseline." Well, he's a commander, if I remember correctly. I'm 98% sure he's a commander. I need to go back and look at the... Where did I even get... I know I downloaded those PDFs. I just don't remember where. Is it on my PC? It's not... It's not on my iPad. I'll have to double check. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad baseline, but again, if it's commander, like if I'm going to use him as a commander, if I'm going to use him as the template for the commander, or High Inquisitor or whatever, Lord Inquisitor, that might not be a bad idea. I could definitely see you in that. Yeah. Let's see. What else have we got? Nobody expects the Inquisition Titans. That's very true. Well, I mean, you hear them coming generally. I suppose there's that. Black Templar Kill Team. Would it be easily done? I mean, honestly, I've just got a Primaris Kill Team that I just painted as Black Templar. The thing is with Space Marines, there's like no differentiation between the chapters in Kill Team. So you can make them whatever colors you want, like Grey, or other than Grey Knights, and Death Watch, those have differentiation. But like, if you decide you want your Kill Team to be Blood Angels, okay, cool. They're no different than Space Wolves. They're no different than Salamanders. They're no different than White Scars within Kill Team, because Kill Team is a simpler rules version. They have not designed any kind of chapter tactics or anything like that for Kill Team. Now, maybe down the road they might, I suppose, but right now they haven't. So when I decided I wanted to make a Space Marine kill team force, and I wanted them to be Primaris, I just decided they were going to be Black Templars because that's the way I wanted to paint them up, and so that's what I did, and I like the way they turned out. So if you go back, I don't know, 5-6 months ago, I mean not that long ago. Well, if you go back a ways, I did a bunch of kill team. I showed a bunch of kill team forces, and one of them that I showed was my Black Templars. So I should probably put better pictures of them on Instagram one of these days. That's what I should probably do. The Animaster asks, does anyone know if Citadel air colors can be used as primers? I wouldn't. I would start with a normal primer. If you're going to be using air colors, I'm assuming through an airbrush, then I would probably start with probably either Vallejo airbrush primer or Badger's Stynylrez airbrush primer, and then go to town with that, and then do your other colors over the top. Depending on how you or what you're painting or how you're painting it, and there's a lot of different aspects there. Like if I was, just as an example, if I was going to be painting Blood Angels, I would probably honestly start with black primer, but I might also start with dark brown primer and then go over it with red, like if you're going to use the Vallejo red, whatever color you want to use specifically for those guys. I would then do that and do it pretty heavy over it, not like, I'm not saying blast one spot, but I would be doing basically a zenithal, but I would be starting with like a shadow color underneath, so either a black or a dark brown. I've seen people actually even use as a shadow color for red, I've seen people use purple. So if you can find a purple primer, that'd be pretty cool. And then do that, and then dust them from above. So if your model is, let's say this, which is actually a paint pot, so it doesn't really make sense. But if you'd be hitting with your red, and you wouldn't be hitting them just straight down. You'd actually be hitting them maybe even as much as like a 45-degree angle, like all the way around. So the black initial primer shadow or the dark brown initial primer shadow would only be still left behind and not get red spray on it too much, like in the underarms area, kind of maybe between the legs, that kind of stuff, and that automatically builds a shadow into your model. So you prime them all one color, and then you dust them from above with that, you kind of get them from above with that color to give that kind of look, and then that you can move pretty quickly from there. I just don't think that the GW air colors are a great like starter primer. I don't know how well they will stick to the plastic. So I mean, you could easily spray them straight onto plastic, and I'm sure that they would cover. But my fear is that they would chip off a little bit more than regular primer would. Primer is designed generally to stick to the model or whatever it is you're priming. So yeah, definitely. Paul Bateman asks, could any of the Inquisitor 28 rules be of any help for Kill Team Inquisitors? Predominantly for fluff, honestly. Like the Inquisitor 28, like the actual rules system, the old original Inquisitor, which was actually 54 rules, is a very, very, very different bird than Kill Team. But fluff-wise, like going through and looking at like what models, or what other kind of classifications or whatever I could use to put in the army, yeah, I can definitely see that. But then I've also got, like I said, the books. I've got the old, like I've still got somewhere a digital copy of the Inquisitor mini codex that they produced for 6th edition 40K, I think. They made a digital, it was one of the first digital mini codexes that they released. It was like $10 and you bought it on, like iTunes or iBooks or whatever you call it, or wherever you want to buy it. And it was just designed, it was to make Inquisitor allies, basically, for 6th edition. And you could add them to certain armies and all that kind of stuff. And so there's a bunch of that jazz. So it's interesting. But again, those are, because the rules have changed so much, it's very difficult to, the stats are not going to pull across at all, but definitely ideas of like, oh, well, these guys had this kind of add-on, so I could try to mimic that in this and see what I can find that's already in Kill Team and try to work it from that. It's interesting trying to come up with stuff for a system that you didn't write, that other people have written, and so you're just like, there's a lot of times when you're like, I don't want to go crazy because I don't want it to be a super OP list, or or underpowered or whatever. So you kind of go and look a lot at other stuff that they've done within that game system and going, okay, well, they did that here. So if I just tweak this and tweak that, maybe this will be fine. It's a lot of that so far I'm discovering, which is not bad. It's honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it's easier to kind of get started, I think, in that way. So yeah, definitely. Let me see. Josh says, what do you think the GW announcements are about the next evolution in painting? Citadel airbrush? Dropper bottles? No, they did a thing just recently. They had like a knockoff of the Matrix that they just recently did, and they referred to something as contrast. And they said they were talking about contrast. So it's not an airbrush, I don't think. And dropper bottles would be awesome, but it's not, obviously, I think, the way they're going either. The contrast thing, I'm wondering if it's a new kind of... It's a new type of paint. I mean, they already have dry brush paint, and they have edge highlight paint. So I don't know what... It's got to be... I think it's a new type of paint that would be for contrast. Maybe it's a new type of wash? I don't know. Yeah, but I don't know. I'd love to know when it's coming out too. That would be interesting. I wonder if it'll come out before Gen Con, maybe. But yeah, it's they've mentioned specifically the contrast thing. Like that was the most recent, like when they did that kind of weird Matrix like knockoff video, which was actually quite well done, frankly. Like they've been getting better with their video, like their video spoof kind of type stuff. It's been really nice. But yeah, so that thing mentioned specifically contrast, and I have a suspicion that it's some sort of new paint product that is designed to make, maybe you don't have to edge highlight, or I don't know. I'm not sure like how it would, like I can't imagine a wash that both highlights and also darkens. Like I don't know how that would work chemically, but maybe. I don't know. I'm no chemist, Lord knows. So yeah. Let's see what else. Michael Strange says GW will announce dropper bottles to the day after I finish transferring my paint pots to droppers, hence I won't be transferring anytime soon. My local shop is allegedly soon, I'm waiting with bated breath, allegedly soon going to be getting the GW Air line in. And there's like no other store that I can find in my local area that carries any kind of air paint. There's a Hobby Town that carries game color and model color from Vallejo, but they don't carry the airbrush versions of either of those, which is a bummer. So I end up buying air paints from Amazon more often than not. But all that being said, if my local shop finally starts to carry the airbrush line from GW, Citadel stuff, then I'm going to buy a whole bunch of those and buy a whole bunch of dropper bottles. I have never been one to transfer normal GW paints to dropper bottles because... I don't know, I just don't for some reason. It seems like a lot of work. I know a lot of people do it, and it's great, but it does seem like a lot of work. But airbrush paints should be actually surprisingly easy to transfer to a dropper bottle because they're so fluid. And they just make so much more sense in dropper bottles. So if my local shop does finally get them soon, then I will go and buy dropper bottles either on, I don't know, eBay or maybe even from Army Painter. The Army Painter is starting to produce kits where you buy dropper bottles and the nozzles and even the little agitator balls, and it all comes in one thing. So yeah, I could definitely see myself buying a bunch of airbrush paints from them if I can finally start buying them locally and then transferring them to dropper bottles because it just makes more sense. So, but yeah, that would be cool. The Animaster says, I got a hint that GW may be releasing primers for airbrush hence I had to ask. It was but a mere hint. Hopefully they do if they use dropper bottles. Well, hopefully they just make a primer for airbrush. That would be nice too. But like right now, for airbrush primer, I'm generally Vallejo and some Stynylrez, but that's what I like to go with. All right, well, it is 11 o'clock by my watch, so it is time to go. I appreciate everybody coming by and watching today. It's been a good talk. I hope that I've been able to kind of be a bit transparent and talk a little bit about what I'm planning on for the Inquisitor add-on thing. Again, I'm no game designer, so I'm kind of just brute forcing this. and just going, well, maybe this will work, and then I'll do some play testing and go, that didn't work, and then all things considered, I honestly think that's frequently how the GW does it anyway, because again, I don't know that they necessarily have a math equation to say these guys should cost this many points. So I guess I'm in good company. So we'll see how it goes. But I do want to work a little bit more along this. I'd hope to have this launched in the next month-ish, maybe a little bit less, hopefully. Because again, I'm not reinventing the wheel. You know what I mean? That's kind of the trick. I'm just basically looking at other stuff that other Kill Team things are doing and trying to tweak it and modify it. And then I just want to give people an excuse to sit down and build some cool inquisitorial war bands and get a little crazy with their stuff. I will look into Rogue Trader. I am loath to buy the box just to get the book, and I'm also not into piracy, so I don't know. I'll figure something out. There's got to be somebody I know who has it. I could just look at it. Anyway, maybe they actually just sell the book online, like ebooks, or whatever. I'll have to look on iBooks and see if they've got that, but they probably don't. I don't know if they do that or not, but I'll look. So some ideas that I've got to go forward, and I want to thank everybody for coming in and listening to me ramble today, and I hope to see you folks again in 2 weeks, and I don't think that there should be anything going on, so next 2 weeks should be good as far as the next show. I don't have any travel. I'm not traveling again until June, and then all the travel. June's going to be a busy month, so we'll see how it goes. Anyway, thanks again to everybody, and we will see you folks soon and in 2 weeks, and there'll be more videos, obviously, on the normal Friday and all that jazz coming up soon, and I'll keep working on it. Thanks for watching.